What is up? Welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at Bitcoin through a number of macro charts and indicators, starting off with fear and greed, and we are still in neutrality. We have been in neutral territory for the last month. Things are getting boring, which probably means there's a big move for Bitcoin coming soon. As we zoom out and take a look at the last year, you can see there's this recent downtrend that started to form. So are we making a lower high before getting further down, maybe putting in a local bottom for Bitcoin somewhere around that 102 to 104K area? We will see. But so far, things have been kind of boring for Bitcoin as far as the last month. Now, as far as seasonality is concerned, we can see that August was indeed negative, and September is a month to watch out for as well, because historically September is the worst month for Bitcoin. Doesn't mean it always has to be. There's been some good Septembers before, especially the last 2 years, but that is something to keep an eye on. Now, as we talk about Bitcoin today, sometimes I'll be showing, or later on in the video, I'll be showing some charts and indicators to look for as far as end of cycle type metrics or signals. So as we get closer to alt season, remember, once Bitcoin tops and is too expensive to buy, that's when we can see alts do very well. Right now, as far as the path to alt season, we are in phase 2, and we'll take a look at that chart also. On the way to the top, remember, there can be pullbacks. It is normal. Imagine being here in 2017 where there's 30 and 40% pullbacks over half a dozen times. Would you be able to handle volatility like that? That's crypto in a nutshell. You do have to weather the storms and buy the dips. As far as the altcoin year, we're just still chopping sideways, nowhere near up towards the highs that we have been in the past. And as far as this is on blockchaincenter.net, by the way, as far as their metrics show, it has been a long time without alt season, the longest stretch ever. So maybe some good things are coming the longer we wait. Now, as far as the rainbow chart, you can see we are still in this yellow log regression band that goes as low as about 107. And remember, log scale, factors of 10, regression, it flattens out over time, becomes less volatile, but there's still a lot of good money to make as far as crypto goes. But something we can see that I'll keep pointing out is as these tops get lower and lower in the regression bands, the last rainbow chart shows this even more so. And so with that general trend of regression, I've just been conservatively looking at these orange boxes here, the orange regression band, somewhere between 150 to 250K Bitcoin, right in the middle, 200K Bitcoin. There's a lot that seems to line up with that. Now on my channel, I talk about various crypto assets, crypto mining stocks, altcoins. So subscribe to hear more about that. Probably going to do some more altcoin videos. I've been playing with the idea of maybe doing some YouTube shorts, 3-minute or less videos on certain altcoins. So if there's one you want me to do a video on, comment below and look for that in the YouTube shorts. Be happy to do that because they don't really need to be 20-minute videos about one altcoin, though that is a problem of mine. Anyways, let's get into Bitcoin. We have this Fibonacci retracement low to high. You can see we had a 618 pullback coming up nicely. Let's stretch out that fib. We haven't done that in a hot minute. And you can see here, not only has Bitcoin had that 618 retracement, but it's been blowing through these fibs pretty well. Use that 0.5 as support, got through the 382 like nothing, and now it is settling on this trend line. And this trend line, we've been talking about it a lot, is that inverse head and shoulders. So I am expecting a much bigger move. It seems every time after Bitcoin has a very solid move up, we just sort of consolidate for a little bit and then get another big move up. So that's what I'm looking for as well. As we zoom out to the weekly, you can see we are green candles again. And that means on Heikinashi, we have buy signals as well. That's what the green dot's for. So reversal in the trend, nothing has changed. And so far, so good. as far as those Heikin-Ashi signals. As I was talking about with the top being somewhere around 200K, a couple indicators to look at here on the weekly as we zoom out. This is the log regression and the pi cycle indicator. The log regression, you can see we get in those bands, and if the top is sometime later December, we have the, by the way, we have this macro fib from the prior cycle high to low, and the macro fibs show the 2618, the 3618, right between 150 and 200K, give or take. The log regression band, it almost hits that perfectly as far as where the tops are, getting between that area, and the pi cycle upper moving average, which we've seen Bitcoin run into that in the past. It does get above it for the last two cycle tops. Will it do it this time around? I don't know. But that pi cycle upper moving average is also around 200K. So a lot of different indicators showing that 200K area. One thing I wanted to take a look at today, there's a lot of talk about Fed rate cuts and what's going to happen with that. So I wanted to take a quick look as far as, is it already on here? We have inflation. Let's type in interest USINT. We need to put it, here we go, USINTR. All right, so when the Fed last cut rates, this was in last September, they cut at first by 50 basis points. Let's go to the daily. Let's go to the daily so we can look at this more accurately. They cut by 50 basis points, paused because they didn't meet in October, and then they cut by 25 basis points a couple more times, and then pause for a while. So we can keep zooming out, and we've been pausing ever since. I wanted to go to, where is that chart? Here we go. That, however the Fed cuts, if they cut by 50 basis points the first time, what I think really matters is what is the average of the rate cuts. And usually when the Fed is cutting by 50 basis points on average, that means something's broken in the economy if they're cutting by 50 basis points or more. If they're cutting by an average of 25 basis points, then usually we are still bullish in the near term. So that is something to watch for. Again, we had the 50 basis point cut. That was sort of a fake out. When you average in that pauses in the middle there, it was an average of 25 basis points. So I'm keeping an eye on that number because that tends to show what's happened before. But here we see when the Fed cut, I believe it was in the middle of September in here, even though the metric shows the whole month. Let's see what Bitcoin did from the start of September of last rate cut cycle is at around 59,000, and to the end of September to October. We just made our way through August here. You can see that Bitcoin did rise overall. So it had this little flush. Maybe that was going into rate cuts, and then it rose by around 13%. We can even take a look at our chart from last year. You can see Bitcoin overall during this rate cut cycle did pretty decent. It did decent until February and March. And if you're wondering, why was February and March bearish? Some people say tariff scary and it's trying to price in what could be happening with that in the markets. New economic administration in the White House. So there's a lot of factors coming in after that all happened. But overall, markets did decently well after that rate cut cycle. Now, we didn't get that Santa Claus rally that everyone was hoping for, albeit October and November into December was pretty good. And as you guys can see here, y'all might remember last mid-November to mid-December was a very good time for Bitcoin. Bitcoin rose very nicely, so by 56%. So is Bitcoin going to do something similar after this rate cut cycle? If we get 25 base point rate cuts and the Fed isn't panicking too much, could Bitcoin rise by 55%? Yet again, let's zoom this out. Where would 55% take us? Well, that'd be around 180K. And again, that's just drawing a one-to-one comparison, which is probably not going to happen. But one of the things we've been talking about on this channel is how do we get into these orange boxes? How do we get to alt season? And if last year was any indication of what could happen, you can see how the Bitcoin market reacted to this rate cut cycle. Now, there's more to it than just rate cuts. It's way more complex than that. But just drawing a comparison right there from what we got with the rate cutting cycle, that could be a positive indication of what to look for as far as crypto goes. So wanted to make sure to talk about that in today's video. Let's go over into Bitcoin dominance. I've thought about doing exclusive Bitcoin dominance videos, and so keep an eye out for that. Maybe I'll do Bitcoin videos, but then solely focus on Bitcoin dominance, because I think there's a lot to talk about with it, especially with concerns of alt season. We can see Bitcoin dominance. This is really nice and bearish right now, and this 20-day moving average is just staying underneath that. So right now that's around 58.34%. If that changes at all, that breaks through, then things are different. But right now that 20-day moving average is showing resistance. And also Bitcoin dominance is finding support right here at the 100-week moving average. This is 200, 150, 20. So we're almost getting close to doing some of these negative death crosses of 20 below the 50. But if this thing really starts nosediving, then we might see the 50 get below the 100 or even 200 maybe. So right now, Bitcoin dominance showing a lot of support at the 100-week moving average. If it did reverse at all, I'd be looking for that 60% area. In the past, we have seen Bitcoin dominance revisit its former cycle highs as well. Something else to keep in mind, I think the stochastic kind of shows this on the monthly. Something I've been looking at is that the stochastic RSI on the monthly, we get these double bottoms with it. Again, not saying this has to happen again, but right now the stochastic is bottoming out. And so as it continues to bottom or possibly reverse trends, might we get something similar to what we had in here, where we come back up for maybe 3-4 months and then spike back down into alt season. So if you measure that out from when the blue line was crossing negative, we'll just go here. That was August of 2020, and here, September of 2025. So similar comparison, just add a month to it. But this alt season finished off in April. April was the true alt season, finished off by early May. So is this telling us if we have any similar bits of timing or movements? Could we get a Q1 2026 alt season? A lot of people are expecting the 4-year cycle and things to play out December. I have nothing against that. However, there have been a couple metrics where I've been wondering, as I just kind of draw out movements, where I'm thinking Q1 next year starts to become an increasing possibility in my mind as far as where a alt season might take place. All right, let's get rid of this stochastic RSI. We'll do that right here, and let's go over to total 3. Total 3, something really exciting to talk about is total 3 wicked above its former all-time high. Now, we did that before in December last year, but I am looking for, let's go to the daily. I'm looking for daily closes. Right now, total 3, you can see how it hit that all-time high line, but the Heikinashis, the candle bodies, are still underneath. Once we get candle bodies, at least on the daily, above it, then I will feel better about it. And one of the reasons why is when total 3 last cycle broke past its former all-time high. You can see that was here in February 21. We did not have that much time left until alt season, so this was a good indicator. Alt season, again, it ended by early May of 21. That's about 3 months worth of time. And yeah, if that happens again sometime soon, then you can say October, November, December, 4-year cycle. Be happy to say it's a 4-year cycle. Maybe we get that alt season in January. But yeah, it's something to keep an eye on. As soon as total 3 breaks, last cycle, things kicked up in the overdrive real soon. If you're wondering why we got this double top, remember we had the double top in Bitcoin as well. Most of the alts that had alt season were here. There were some alts that did have their all-time high here. So if you're looking for a double top, so be it. But I think the first wave of dominance tanking to the low 40% would be the area to watch for. Right now, 14% is the number for all the altcoins paired against Bitcoin when you're outside of the top 10. So what that means is all the altcoins underneath Cardano, you add up all their market caps together, and that is a 14% comparison against Bitcoin. So in the past, last cycle, we got as high as 44% and 49%. So almost got to half of what Bitcoin did. And if we get anywhere near there again, I'm looking for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin gets to 150K, that's a 3 trillion market cap Bitcoin. So if we add 40% of 3 trillion, that's about $1.2 trillion to get into the altcoin market underneath the top 10 cryptos. Bitcoin gets to 200K, and that would be 4 trillion market cap here. Again, if we're only talking 40% of 4 trillion, that's $1.6 trillion to go into the altcoin market. So that would be pretty sweet, even if we revisited this area. If we take this fib off log, you can see that's right near where the 1618 fib extension is. So I don't know if we're really going to see a new high in the others dash Bitcoin. The 1618 I think would be a very generous area to possibly consider taking some profits. As far as tether dominance, let's take this off log. Tether dominance, if this starts being bullish again, and Bitcoin dominance is going up, all that, I'd be eyeing this 5% area, the 100, the 200 week moving average, as well as the 236 is right there. But again, looking at the monthly, we have the trend line in this 100-month moving average coinciding here. And tether dominance calls these tops. Whenever tether dominance is dipping, that's where Bitcoin is usually topping. So again, if we have that 100, you'll have to imagine now, the 100-month moving average running into this trend line and tether dominance hits it, it's around 3.6, 3.5% around there. That might be when we get that true alt season after that point. Let's go to Ethereum against Bitcoin. I talked about how Ethereum right now, we're in phase 2. Here we are. We're in phase 2 because Ethereum is increasing its value against Bitcoin. Now, after this bottom, here we go. After this bottom, Ethereum's done very well. It's run into the 0.5 fib as well as the 100-week moving average. I drew out this squiggly line a while ago about some expected moves it might have in a very bullish scenario, and I showed that maybe after hitting the 0.5, the 50-week moving average and the 382 are two areas to really define whether something's bullish or bearish. And so even if it came back down, we got this mini pullback, I could see us coming back up, maybe challenging the 200-week moving average, the 618, come back down, testing that 0.5, and then we rocket to alt season. And just kind of drawing out what's that called? Elliott wave theory. Sorry for the brain freeze. What an Elliott wave. I'm not an Elliott wave guy. What that might look like, just get some waves up here, sort of like how we had. That may take us to Q1 of next year. So just playing with trend lines and squiggly lines and things such as that. But that's where we are as far as phase 2. Now phase 3, that's large caps. And one way to kind of look at large caps, we can do total 3 divided by Bitcoin, because it's everything outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum. And you can see right there that total 3 divided by Bitcoin. We hit this 618, okay? So just like Bitcoin recently on the microfib had a 618 pullback. Now, are we coming back up? Now here, I did a low to high fib. That's why the fibs are reversed there. But, if this keeps coming up, that'll be good for large caps. Last time that we had alt season, remember, we were getting into April, and that was right around the 0.5 fib to the 236 in here, even as high as there, but the 0.5 to 236, and that's where we are right now. So if all of a sudden this starts moving really heavy, that could be phase 3, and then phase 4 somewhere up here. So just something to watch for as well. Anyways, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Wanted to talk about rate cuts a little bit, that effect that we might see on Bitcoin. If the Fed, it is predicted they're going to cut by 25 basis points. If they are, or we get an average of that, then, you know, a similar move compared to what we had last year, that could take us up to those areas around, again, where we're calling for a possible cycle top. So just showing from right here, if we had let me do this again. If we had something like a 55% move, give or take, it could be 60, it could be 70, it could be 40, whatever. We are within that range that I showed you earlier with the log regression and the pi cycle top. So I do think that pi cycle top, that if we hit it, we might just be doing another one of these like we did last March. But that's sort of my base case. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a fantastic Monday. Take care.